So there we've had plenty of food for thought and some really good examples. We've had the Minister speak about what's being done in Ireland, what plans are coming ahead and new proposals. We've heard from Scotland how the Flood Forum there, how they're operating and how they engage with the authorities and with the local communities. And then the Dutch experience, which I think has been very well explained. And I must say, I was in Holland earlier this year and went to the Ovendiep area with Liesbeth and her husband, and it's absolutely amazing. We think, you know, we've got a problem here. How they keep the North Sea out and the size of those rivers is just fantastic. But it can be done with the will and there's the methodology and there's actually what needs to be done. So I'm going to take questions from the floor. So we're running very late on time, which of course was inevitable, but well, not over, but if we have some questions from the floor, if you can just put up your hand, and can we keep the questions respectful and questions rather than speeches? That'd be great, thank you. I've got somebody over here. Can you use the microphone as it's being... Yes, thank you very much, or we won't hear you. Thank you.
This Room for the River project that was started many years ago, and you've got Denmark, Holland, some of the UK on the East Coast, and you mentioned Ireland was approached, but we didn't join. Is it still too late to join, or should one of our organizations be involved?
Well, Liesbeth can tell you also something about this, but we were looking for funding for these projects, and eventually it was picked up by the North Sea region part, so that's why it wasn't, Ireland couldn't be involved because it is in the North Sea region. Yes. That's very a pity, because we started to make the project plan about this with Ireland, with Tony. Yes.
Tony, can you wait for the microphone? Thanks. Tony's been very involved behind the scenes with the INFF as well. Thank you very much.
No, I used to work with Dublin City Council, and we applied to the northwest region of Europe for this project. But by the time, between the time we started putting the project together and the time that the EU finalised their eligibility conditions, we didn't fall within it, but the North Sea region did, so that's why we had to leave the party.
Okay. But we are still working together, and that's why we are also here. Is it possible to get that presentation? Yes. Yes.
If you want to leave your details, we'll. I don't know if we'll be putting the presentations up on the website, but if you leave your details with us at the desk, we'll do that. Just to clarify, I think you thought that the current programme is Room for the River. Room for the River was a previous programme. The programme I think that Tessa and Liesbeth are working on the moment are two programmes. So the North programme is?
Yes.
Which?
We're working on the FAIR project and the Building with Nature project, and that's the international project of the North Sea region, Interreg North Sea region.
We've got a question here, thank you.
All the speakers were fantastic, thank you very much.
Just come away from the loudspeaker just a little bit, thank you very much. Yeah.
I just wanted to ask Kirsty about the Scottish situation.
Can you just say actually who you are and where you're from?
Rory O'Connor from County Clare. The level of funding that you received, that's the first question. The number of staff, and is there a statutory requirement on local authorities to engage with you?
We are funded to the level of 2.5 staff. I am the half. I have 2 full-time members of staff who are the ones who tend to do the operational out on the ground work. I would say that is, and government would agree, that is bare minimum funding. We are stretched to cover all of Scotland in a meaningful manner in that way. We get, I'll be open with you, we get 140,000 a year. That covers the majority of our needs, not all, so we're always looking for grant funding, foundation funding, donations, you name it, as all charities are, but that at least gives us a baseline. And no, there's no statutory responsibility. There's some initiatives, and it's considered good practice from Scottish Government that local authorities engage with communities. This whole resilience community initiative I mentioned, it's not a statutory responsibility, it's good practice. they don't need to engage with us, and I think that's our strength, because again it means it's relationship building, it's trust, and it's about actually getting to know people, which actually is where things happen. Is, as Elizabeth said, it has to be about stakeholder engagement, getting to know people, building links. So I think there's strength in it not being statutory.
So Kathleen, we have some questions from the other side of the... It's always the questions always come from the same side of the room. I don't know how this always happens. And you can say your name, thank you, and where you're from.
Yeah. Thanks, Chairperson. John Hanley, Chairman of Roscommon Irish Farmers Association. I think, first of all, Minister Moran, you hear the old saying, all talk and no action, but credit where credit is due. And your predecessor, Sean Kenny, I think it's the first time in over 100 years that work has taken place on the pinch points in Banagher, Meelick direction, or that area down there. But we have a situation a couple of miles out the road here as regards turlocks. And Minister Kenny, before you would say took over from, we say we had the minor work scheme there, and the IFA put a lot of work in doing a cost-benefit analysis on that. Agricultural land or activity wasn't taken into consideration. Now we have GSI, the Geological Survey of Ireland, have been there the last 2 years. It's still at very high winter flood level, and Councillor Lawrence Fallon is here beside me. About 1,200 acres of land still underwater. And we know the solution for it, but when will work take place on it? Thanks.
Thanks very much, and I would point out that, and thank you for your kind words, and as I say, 4.5 months in the job, and we're achieving quite a lot. In relation to the turlocks, I visited on 2 occasions. First, I met with a small number of residents out there. I was out on, I suppose, family business first, then got tied into meeting some of the residents. I've then met out there with OPW officials and the County Council. And can I say to you that our officials, along with the County Councils, have now advanced in relation to talks to come up with a scheme in relation working with my department and the County Council. The County Council have to come in with the paperwork, and we'll take it from there. But we're in a way better place than we were this time last year. And I also point out, when you mentioned turlocks, we're talking about the turlock in the Lightenberg direction. We all know in relation to FS. And I met with the families out there last Sunday, and I acknowledged that we were looking at building a bung in conjunction with the OPW and again with Longford County Council, and that is something that the local authorities now are working to come in with a design. There's not a person in this catchment area that I haven't left behind, and wherever my department and government have committed to, we'll make sure and try and our best to deliver on schemes. But I would say to you, the turlocks are very much to the forefront on delivering, because we know the suffering that flooding caused, not just on the Shannon, but also in relation to the turtles in question. And I can say to you that when I visited the Hanley family last week, and the whole option was put to them in which they want to move on the relocation scheme, they want to stay at home. But it doesn't just affect them, it affects 3 other homes as well, just like in Lochwinchin. And I would say to you that we're in an advanced stage. That I also say in relation to channel cleaning, that I have said I was picking a pilot scheme. I believe the local authorities should be delivering on this, not my department, but I am picking a pilot scheme where I've picked areas such as Roscommon, Sligo, Leitrim and Longford as part of that scheme, where money has been made available on a pilot basis to see that the local authorities can carry out channel cleaning in those areas to get water faster through the system. I hadn't, the week that we had, and I suppose leading into what happened this week all over, we hadn't just got the paperwork and the details of that, but the local authority has been made aware of that. I've also spoken to Minister Owen Murphy, outlining my decision to set up this pilot scheme based on that when local authorities seek their funding, next year allocation, that if this is successful, that they will be asked to set aside a percentage of the money to deal with this going forward. As I said at the outset, every local authority in the country have to play a vital role in relation to flooding, like the committee here today to set up what they have. And I hope to talk to these people afterwards and helping them in relation to funding, but also helping them to contact local authorities. What I see when we have a flooding that they can help, but also local authorities need to be aware of the help that's there for them as well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So we've quite a few people who want to speak, so I think if you can keep your questions quite short. So if you can say your name, thank you, and where you're from.
Oh, okay, thanks very much. John Keena, Chairman of Offaly AFA. First of all, I suppose I want to welcome Boxer, the work he has done on the Shannon and the pinch points, and we have met him down in Banner a few times, and indeed we have invited back down again to look at other pinch points. I suppose, well done to the work that was done. I was down, I visited. I suppose a bit disappointed that I couldn't have continued a bit longer to take more silt out. What was done, I think, was a very good job. And I suppose the question is, why had it to stop like the 1st of October? I'm led to believe it was from a fisheries point of view, but like I think it would have far benefited the fisheries if the silt was taken out of the Shannon. And when will that work start up again?
Well, first of all, we had to obtain licences, and in fairness to all agencies working collectively together to obtain those licences, we did look, as I said to you at the outset, for 9 licences. We got 7. Works we got the licence late in the day. We did start works, but works will commence. As I said in the earlier clip, we will now go back into the Parks and Wildlife with looking for the licences. We'll have them for next year to start in March and continue on. I am committed to making sure that whatever we can to get the water through the system in relation to the maintenance programme that we've set out will continue. And one thing that all the talk is government, if it falls tonight, what happens? What I have done in the 4.5 months of there, I've put a plan in place that whoever comes in after me will follow that plan, will see an end down the road to helping families deal with flooding.
Thanks. Say who you are again, Enda. Thanks.
Sorry, Enda O'Donovan, Skibbereen. Let me say that the presentations thus far have been brilliant. Thanks very much. This question is probably for all of you, and it's I'm delighted that Minister Moran is looking for more money. But the big issue we have is the delay, or what the big issue is insurance. Second issue is the delay in getting from a flood event to a finished scheme. And I just wanted to ask, across the board, from European and Scottish perspective, how long does it take from an area being flooded to a scheme going through the whole system and being delivered? In Ireland, it's over 10 years. And it's really frustrating seeing that years can be lost on consultations, etc. So that's open to all of you, please.
The fact we're sniggering kind of says we know better. Because I think underlying the legislation in all countries will be very similar now. We'll all have the flood risk management plans, which means that from government's point of view, a planned approach to flood schemes, which means there's a process of study, working out what the source of flooding is, working out what the best solution is, consultation. It takes a long time to do an engineered solution, and part of me goes, I wish it didn't, part of me gets it. So that's where we to come into our own, because there is going to be a period, either long term because it's considered not viable, or 10, 15, 20 years when the community resilience and self-help has to be the core means of protecting the community from flooding until the scheme's in place. So this, now with the flood risk management plans, there is usually a time scale that at least a community can go, it's happening in the next 6 years, or we're not even being looked at until the 2nd or 3rd cycle. Right, what can we do? And that's frustrating, but at least there's some clarity.
In case of Ireland, as we all know, CFRAM is be announced toward the end of this year, and I think once, I've said it before, CFRAM is the Bible for going forward. Yes, it's about, at this age of CFRAM, it protects urban areas. Second phase will protect rural areas, but it's about collectively identifying areas that are subject to flooding that we can get in, deal with straight away. And I would say that towards the end of the year, once we announce CFRAM, we'll identify the schemes that's of higher priority for government, but high priority for people that's affected most. And I say there'll be political fallout in relation to CFRAM, because I, as a person that's travelled the whole of the country, over since the day I set in my office, I have seen almost every part of the country to date, and I know the areas that need flooding protection with immediate effect. As I say, when I went to Clonakilty, it was being talked about, but now it's there. the money is provided. That's what I'm about, that's what government's about, and that's what we continue to deliver. But we are pushing to the stage that once CFRAM is there, we'll be able to deliver schemes at a faster pace. As Minister, it's my job to get the money, and that's something that I am working very closely with my officials and with the Department of Finance.
Thank you very much, Minister. I just want to take one question from behind. Hand was up first. Kathleen there, who's a local resident. Thank you.
Yeah, Kathleen Connolly from Athlone. And first of all, well done, Minister, on getting the funds for the defences. But when the defences are built, where does the water go? And can we learn something from the Dutch people?
We always can learn from our partners right across the world, not just the Dutch. We have learned from the Scottish people as well. But here in Ireland, once we build, and one thing with the OPW, every scheme that we've built to date has kept up to the task of keeping water out. People have said to me, once the schemes are built around Athlone, are we going to flood Golden Island? Are we going to, all is your interest in Athlone? I think it's unfair for people to put that out, because what we have started this year with works in getting water faster through the system, in removing some of the maintenance work that we've carried, now as we announced today, up in 6 million investment in relation to pinch points, that helps rural communities at a way better than it had been in the past. Athlone, we protected it in 2015-16, and we kept up. But yet, the people, the resilience of the people working as a community downstream of Athlone, helping one another, local authorities helping out, we all play a part in that. But we are moving in a direction that I feel, with all I've mentioned coming together, is a huge step forward in terms of not just Athlone, but the whole Shannon catchment area.
And just to say, later on we'll be having talk by the people from the OPW, from Mark Amundsen, who works on the CFRAMS programme, and we'll have a full assessment of what's being done and what the effect of that will be. There's one person who I just don't want, I'm sorry, actually I've a few people left. I think we're going to have to keep some of the questions maybe till later on, and we just take our coffee break, because is your question like one question, one short answer?
Yeah, it's very short.
Who are you?
My name is John Collier from Laois, the Nor flood community, and I travel every day to work by the Grand Canal, and I see the amount of money that's spent on the canal cutting the weeds. And I attended a conference here with the Floods Forum last October, and there was a guy from America brought over examples of some machinery. And we have some very sophisticated machinery working on the canals, and there's fellows there driving them, and they're full-time staff. And I have no problem with the people on boats on the canals. I've been on it myself. But proportionally speaking, there should be a maintenance scheme for all our rivers equal to what's being spent on the canals.
And thanks, John Joe. I know you've had your own troubles this week, and John Joe will be talking later. So I don't know if the Minister wants to say just a word.
I couldn't agree with you more, but as you heard at the outset in relation, I probably should have mentioned Laois is part of that pilot scheme as well in relation to helping with the channel cleaning. But I would say to you is, I'm working closely with Waterways Ireland and my department, and anywhere we can assist, we are doing it. It's not, as I say, all about the Shannon. It's the contributors, the canals play a huge part in that. But I'm 4.5 months in this job, and while I'm working as fast and working until I'm not looking for any credit, I'm working late at night every night to try and speed up the process of trying to help people both in rural and urban areas. That's my goal, that's my achievement, and that's why we set out today, but we will work together.
I'm not being critical, all I'm saying is I didn't know there was so much money being spent on the canals.
Yeah, and I appreciate that.
I didn't know there was so much money being spent on the canals. I've been very fortunate to drive along beside the machines going to work in the morning. I made a video, I intended to send it to Chair, but like, we have machines here doing good work, but they're not in the rivers.
Okay, take that point.
I think we'll just break now, because otherwise we're going to lose time all the rest of the day. So we're just going to take maybe just 10 minutes, and when I call you back, can you please come back and we'll get on with the next session. So thank you for your attention and participation. Thank you very much.